Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you're joining us from in the world. We're from Canada, and thank you for making this a global event. I'm RJ Horner, host and facilitator for Live and Love Life, and I have the great honor to lead off this amazing, exciting event. We're going to do our national anthem, so please respect the national anthem. You can stay in your seats, but please, we're going to play the Canadian national anthem before we begin, so please join us. Thank you for that. And Voice of Men 360 has invited some prominent speakers from around the world for their inaugural event, as they begin their journey as the voice of men around the world, representing International Men's Day. This pre-event, which is a full week-long daily event from November 14th to November 19th, which is International Men's Day. And you'll learn more about that from the founder of IMD, who's going to join us very shortly. And then, of course, the founder of Voice of Men 360, who's going to join us very shortly. First, before we begin, we'll get into our agenda and some announcements, and then we'll move into our pillars and then our speakers for today. So first, our agenda at 10 o'clock, we have our founder of Men 360, Voice of Men 360, Sivan Valatam. Then we move into the founder of International Men's Day, Jerome Teelucksingh. We have a talk on identifying as being a male throughout the stages of life. Then we move on to a talk on gender-based healthcare. Are we ready for such a thing? Followed by a speaker who's going to come on and talk about the social impact that we're having right now and the role men will play in that. Followed by one or two other speakers, and followed up by a talk on masculinity throughout the stages, past, present, and future. That's our agenda for today, but we've got 5 more days of different speakers that are going to be on. So please join us 10 a.m. every day from the 14th to the 19th, which is going to be International Men's Day. We want to thank our supporters, and through that we have an art competition. And our supporters have been able to help us put that together. We've been able to come up with some prizes, and our first prize was brought to you by Right Choice Professionals, and they were able to put us for a $250 first prize. A second prize of $175, which was brought to us by Wood Gold LLP, their barristers and solicitors. Third prize, which is $100, is brought to us by Make Homet and Agostino Mortgage Group. And then finally, our website support, which was made possible by DF Credit Solutions for settlements, consumer proposals, and bankruptcies. And I'll have more details about our competition throughout the day today. And then Voice of Men has ongoing live talks, and that's how I got involved with Voice of Men. So please reach out to us through our Facebook group, through the website that we're going to put out very shortly. So, and we're always looking for different speakers. We're always looking to interview you as an authority, especially in men's issues. So please reach out to us for that. And of course, we're a volunteer organization. This is a not-for-profit. So we're always seeking volunteers and willing to work with different organizations and coaches and speakers and prominent personalities out there, especially if you have an interest in men's issues. So we want to work with you. So please reach out to us. We are Voice of Men 360. Our website, of course, is www.voiceofmen360.org. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Of course, we are same thing, facebook.com/voiceofmen360. Please visit us on YouTube. That's where you can find our videos of these prominent interviews. Please like and subscribe there. And our phone number, if you choose to reach us, is 647-424-2251. So those are our announcements for this morning. Thanks for being there through that. We're going to start moving into our event. We're almost at 10 o'clock here, and that was our lead-off time. So again, I'm excited and proud to be able to lead off this great event for the next 6 days leading up to International Men's Day. So I'm going to discuss the 6 pillars of International Men's Day. Number 1, to promote positive male role models, not just movie stars and sportsmen, but everyday working class men who are living decent, honest lives. 2, to celebrate men's positive contributions to society, community, family, marriage, childcare, and the environment. 3, to focus on men's health and well-being, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual. 4, to highlight discrimination against men in all areas of social services, social attitudes, expectations, and law. 5, to improve gender relations and promote gender equality. 6, to create a safer, better world where people can be safe and grow their reach for full potential. Those are the 6 pillars of International Men's Day, and you're going to get to hear more about them. Of course, we at Voice of Men support these pillars, and we tend to live by them. So we're thankful to International Men's Day for creating such an event, and we're pleased and proud to be part of that. Now I'm going to bring on our founder here of Voice of Men 360, Sivan Valatam. Sivan, thanks for putting this together and lead us off. Let's talk about this Voice of Men 360 and the International Men's Day.
Good morning. Thank you. That's a great honor, RJ Corner. Really, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. Welcome all of you to our first observance of a week-long celebration of International Men's Day 2020. I am honored, and it is my great privilege to have more than 45 speakers around the globe to celebrate the lives of men at our platform, Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020, and it is based in Toronto, Canada. Many boys and men are seeking help and support in many areas of their lives. We understand both the demands and the support needed when it comes to boys and men in our society. That's how this organization is born, to provide services to overcome their life challenges. Voice of Men 360 is part of International Men's Day, which is a global organization. IMD follows 6 pillars. Overall, the well-being of boys and men. It has been serving over 20 years, and nearly 90 countries around the world join together and doing various activities regularly. Friends, I am not ashamed of sharing the truth. When I thought or realized the challenges, the struggles, and the life situations that our men's world face from birth to death, until I listened to a speech back in 2018, November 19, at the International Men's Day Gala, from a man whose message opened my mind and connected with my inner calling, where I said to myself that I want to do something and I can do something to our men's world. Pandemic, COVID-19 gives different opportunities and choices to each one of us. A couple of months ago, I had a conversation with Dr. Jerome, and today, here we are with more than I asked for. A week-long celebration with speakers around the world, live talk show, webinar, more than 50 people in our team to help support. Some new groups are willing to work with us from India, Sri Lanka, South America, Europe, Caribbean countries, and a number of African countries as well. In the life of equation, all genders are equal and we all have equal rights. That is the way the nature has created us. Voice of Men 360 is a platform to all of us as a voice of men in our society. I would like to clarify that it is not against women at all or disregard their issues. Three things really matter at the end of the day: what we do, why we do it, how we do it. As we are celebrating, speaking at this moment, many people go through very tough time in their lives. During this year and the next year, we may experience some unfortunate situations. So please be mindful that through this event, with your positive message, positive vibration, and the positive energy, if we can make a positive changes in someone's life, and if we can save a life, that is more than enough, and that is the whole purpose of this event, and to have Healthy Men 2020. One word, one message, one event, one journey. Yes, we can make a positive impact in someone's lives. Thank you, Dr. Jerome, for giving us an opportunity to share your journey with us and your global team, International Men's Day. Dear friends, once again, I welcome all, and I am very excited to meet each one of you in the next few days. Thank you. So I'm just quickly speaking our language too in Tamil. Vanakkam Tamil உறவுகளே. சர்வதேச ஆண்கள் தினத்தை முன்னிட்டு ஆண்களின் குரல் 360 வாய்ஸ் ஆஃப் மென் 360 எங்கள் அமைப்பு நடாத்தி கொண்டிருக்கும் ஒரு வாரகால கொண்டாட்ட நிகழ்வில் கலந்து கொள்ள வந்திருக்கும் அனைவரையும் இருகரம் கூப்பி வருக வருக என வணங்கி வரவேற்கிறேன். ஆண்களின் குரல் 360 அமைப்பு ஒரு இலாபகர நோக்கமற்ற அமைப்பாகும். இது கனடாவில் இருந்து செயற்பட்டு வருகின்றது. சர்வதேச ஆண்கள் தினம் எனும் அமைப்புடன் சேர்ந்து இயங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றது. எங்களது செயற்பாடுகள் சர்வதேச ஆண்கள் தினம் அமைப்பின் 6 தூண்கள் எனும் கோட்பாடுகளுடன் எமது சேவைகளை முன்னெடுத்து வருகின்றோம். இவை ஆண்கள் எதிர்கொள்ளும் விடயங்களை மற்றும் சவால்களுக்கு உதவி புரிகின்ற வகையிலும் மற்றும் அவை பற்றிய விழிப்புணர்வை சமூகத்தில் கொண்டு வரும் நோக்கிலும் இயங்கி வருகின்றது. இங்கு ஒன்றை தெளிவுபடுத்த விரும்புகின்றேன். எமது அமைப்பு ஆண்களின் குரல் 360 பெண்களுக்கு எதிரானதாவோ அல்லது எமது செயற்பாடுகள் பெண்ணியத்திற்கு எதிரானவையோ அல்ல. தற்போது உலகில் அனைவருமே மிகவும் சவால் நிறைந்த ஒரு காலகட்டத்தில் நாம் வாழ்ந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறோம். இந்த ஒரு வார கால கொண்டாட்ட நிகழ்வு வெறுமனே ஒரு நிகழ்வாக இடம்பெறாமல் இதில் கலந்து கொள்பவர்களின் ஆக்கப்பூர்வமான கருத்துக்கள் அன்றாடம் பல பிரச்சனைகளுக்கு முகம் கொடுத்து கொண்டிருக்கும் ஆண்களின் வாழ்வில் மற்றும் அவர்களின் மனங்களில் ஒரு நம்பிக்கையை, ஒரு நல்ல மாற்றத்தை கொண்டு வரும் என முழுமையாக நான் நம்புகிறேன். இந்நிகழ்வின் மூலம் குறைந்தது ஒருவரது வாழ்க்கையை நல்ல விதத்தில் மாற்றியமைக்க முடிந்தால் அல்லது ஒருவரை இறப்பின் விளிம்பில் இருந்து காப்பாற்றினால் அதுவே மிகப்பெரிய விடயம் என நான் நம்புகின்றேன். ஒரு சொல், ஒரு செய்தி, ஒரு நிகழ்வு, ஒரு பயணம். மாற்றுவோம் மற்றவரின் வாழ்க்கையை முன்னோக்கி. மீண்டும் அனைவரையும் வரவேற்றுக் கொண்டு எல்லோருக்கும் நன்றி கூறி அமைகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம். தேங்க்யூ.
Thank you, Sivan. That's awesome. Thank you for creating this group, first of all, and allowing me to be part of it. And thank you for, again, embracing the message of International Men's Day. I think it's a really valuable message and one that I'm very pleased to be able to spread and share. And that started 20 years ago by a gentleman who had a passion for men and boys and the impact we were having on them and decided to do something about it. Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh is a professor at the University of Trinidad, and it really is his mission to help make stronger, better boys and turn them into stronger men. So, Jerome, thank you for joining us today.
I believe he is not actually on the line.
He is not available with us.
Yeah, I think he has some issues with joining. So you can move to the next speaker, though.
Very good. So the next speaker we may have on the line would be STACEY Naidoo. And he's going to talk about, he's a Native American Native Canadian, Indigenous to Canada. And he's going to talk about identifying building as a male, especially through the stages of life. So please welcome STACEY Naidoo. I apologize.
1 second. Laura?
I'm still here. Do we have do we have STACEY Naidoo on with us?
Okay, hold on. 1 second. Maybe you can move to the next speaker. That's fine. I can bring him on the next one.
Okay. And so the next speaker, we're going to talk about culture and generation or gender-based healthcare. Is it something we're ready for? Brought to you by Dr. Sentharan Gunaratnam, and he's a specialist in he's a Tamil speaking specialist in mental health challenges, and so he's coming on to talk to us about gender-based healthcare. Please welcome Dr. Sentharan Gunaratnam, and I hope I pronounced your name okay.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this initiative. I know we talk about men's mental health from time to time, but taking an event focusing on men's health in general for a week-long seminars and initiatives, this is amazing. Thanks for the organization, and thanks for Mr. Velayudham representing the Canadian wing. I hope this is going to be an ongoing initiative for men's health in general. Me being a psychiatrist who work in Toronto, I would like to address a few issues that men would be going through in my day-to-day clinical experience. That's something that need to be addressed or being addressed, but not adequate enough to be addressed. So the men's mental health, it's a sleeper issue. It's a silent crisis. When it comes to men's health, we talk about prostate cancer and colon cancer, or heart attacks, diabetes, stroke, but we don't really talk about depression or any other mental health challenges that could be a serious concern when it comes to men's health. In Canada, 10% of men with mental health disorders and substance use disorders compared to 11% of women have similar mental health conditions. So as Mr. Velayudham said, that we are not trying to diminish or neglect the care that should be provided to the women. Absolutely, that we want women to continue getting proper care and address. But at the same time, we also want to focus on men's mental health, because which is equally devastating and is a growing need in the area of health. 6 million American men and 1 million Canadian men suffer with major depressive disorder every year. Look at the number. 6 million is a huge number. This the American men alone. Every year they suffer with depression. And also that in a UK study, they talk about the shift of the traditional gender balance. It's shifting towards men in terms of raising mental health challenges. So we talk about, especially I could address South Asian women, they present with somatic symptoms like pain and body aches and headaches and other non-specific physical health challenges as a form of, or as an expression of depression. Same as that in my day-to-day clinical experience and according to various studies, men also, they don't come to light to talk about depression in general. They come with anger, hostility, substance use, irritability, relationship problems. That's how men express mental health challenges as well. The actual way of design or the structure that the men is portrayed in terms of the masculinity or the nature of men should not be weak, they should not be emotional, they should not be expressing emotions. Emotion is not the language that to be spoken among men. That prevents men to reach out help. And when I'm talking about South Asian men in general, they don't come to me, they don't come to the primary care physicians to reach out for mental health challenges. They don't even talk to their friends. They don't even talk to their families. They self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. They show up in anger, they show up as irritability. They express in various ways that affect themselves and their family, but they don't reach out for help because in the language that reaching out for help is a sign of weakness. So especially abuse, we talk about domestic violence. So men also get into serious domestic violence and related issues, but there's no services, especially when I talk about Toronto, there's no trauma therapy that's being provided to men. I mean, if there's any, there's very few that's not adequate to serve our men in Toronto. So there's no proper structured way of treating men by considering the gender and the culture based approach. It's very lacking. Is it, as I portrayed it earlier, is it option or is the need? It is a need, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to catch these individuals. They're very vulnerable. In order to give them the proper help they need early on before they get worse. As we all know by the time that almost 75% of men, they complete suicide in the whole 100% of suicidal rates overall. In other way, that every 5 suicides, 4 of them, they are men. So the men's vulnerability is much higher compared to women when that comes to mental health, and that also need to be adequately addressed in a culture and gender-based balance. So just want to finish this with a simple example. We talk about postpartum depression. So we all know this postpartum depression is a huge concern that needs to be addressed on a timely manner when women deliver a child. But how many of us know that the postpartum depression can also happen to men, or the partner of the woman went through labor, or the child of the father? Very few of us, if I'm not mistaken. So that itself, it speaks us a lot in terms of how men's needs are unidentified or undervalued or not properly provided in a whole scheme of healthcare. That needs to be more addressed in a way of awareness campaigns, forums, education. If they don't address that they have an illness, they won't be interested in talking about, because they don't relate themselves that they have a problem. Speaking of Sri Lankan community that I primarily work with, we have almost 40 drug overdoses in Toronto itself in the past 3 months. And all of them are men. So I'm not trying to scare or hypen up the ideology of men needs help, but it's factual and it should be heard to the federal and provincial governments more vigilantly and aggressively in order to obtain the gender-based and the culture-based supports that we need. Thank you. I'm going to speak a few words in Tamil. That's my mother tongue.
Please.
ஸோ இந்த ஆண்களின் மனநலம்ன்றது ஒரு கவனிக்கப்படாத விஷயம். அதாவது ஒரு ஸ்லீப்பர் செல் என்று நாங்கள் சொல்லுவோம், சும்மா கதைக்கிறேன்னு சொன்னா, அதாவது உறங்கி கொண்டிருக்கிற ஒரு விஷயம், ஒரு சைலண்ட் கிரைசிஸா இருக்கிற விஷயம், அதை நாங்கள் பெருசா கதைக்கிறேன். இப்ப நாங்கள் ஒரு ஆண்களுக்கு ஒரு ப்ரோஸ்டேட் கேன்சரோ, கோலோன் கேன்சரோ, அல்லது ஒரு ஹார்ட் அட்டாக்கோ, ஸ்ட்ரோக்கோ அப்படி ஒரு விஷயம் வரைக்கல அது ஒரு பெரிய விஷயமா ஃபேமிலியோ நாங்கள் இண்டிவிஜுவலாவோ அவைகளுக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ண ட்ரை பண்றாங்களே தவிர ஒரு டிப்ரெஷன் விஷயத்தை நாங்கள் பெருசா அப்ரோச் பண்ணி கதைக்கிறேன். கனடால மட்டும் 10% ஆண்களுக்கு மனநலம் சம்பந்தமான பிரச்சனைகள் இருக்குது. அதே நேரம் பெண்கள் என்ற ஸ்டாட்டிஸ்டிக்ஸ் எடுத்து பார்க்க 11%. அப்ப ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு டிராஸ்டிக் சேஞ்ச் இல்லை. அந்த 10% versus 11% is very comparable. அதே நேரத்துல யூகேல ஒரு ஸ்டடீஸ்ல சொல்றாங்க என்னன்னு சொன்னால், அந்த டிப்ரெஷன் இருக்கிற விதம் பெண்களுக்கு இருக்கிற அளவை விட ஆண்களுக்கு இருக்கிற அளவு கூட வர்ற மாதிரி அந்த அந்த அவங்களோட கிராஃப் மாறிக்கொண்டு போகுது, அந்த பேலன்ஸ் மாறிக்கொண்டு போகுது. இப்ப நாங்கள் நார்மலா பார்க்கல கதைப்பம் பெண்கள் டிப்ரெஷனை டிரெக்டா, அதாவது சவுத் ஏஷியன் உமன் டிரெக்டா எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் பண்றையில பெயினோ அல்லது தலையடியோ, ஹெடேக்கோ, வயிற்றுக்குள்ள நோவோ, முதுகு நோவோ, அது சொமேட்டிக் சிம்டம்ஸ் சொல்லுவோம். அப்படியான விஷயங்களை தான் அவையில் எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் பண்றவியல் டிரெக்டா டிப்ரெஷன் வந்தோ அல்லது மென்டல் ஹெல்த் சம்பந்தமா டிரெக்டா கதைக்கிறேன். அதே மாதிரி தான் ஆண்களும் நேரடியா வந்து எனக்கு டிப்ரெஷன் இருக்கு டாக்டர் ஒரு நாளும் கதைக்கிறது சரியான குறைவு. அது சவுத் ஏஷியன் மென் வெரி ப்ரிசைஸ்லி அவை என்ன வேணும்னு சொன்னா ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் ப்ராப்ளம், கோவம் அல்லது பதட்டம், ஹோஸ்டிலிட்டி, வயலண்டா பிஹேவ் பண்றது, ட்ரக்ஸ் பாவிக்கிறது, ஆல்கஹால் பாவிக்கிறது இஸ் ஹியூஜ் இன் ஸ்ரீலங்கன் கம்யூனிட்டி அன்ஃபார்ச்சுனேட்லி. இப்படியான விஷயங்கள் இந்த மூலமா வரைக்கல அவையில் நாங்கள் ப்ராப்பரா அசஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம். அது இட்ஸ் அன் எக்ஸ்பிரஷன் ஆஃப் டிப்ரெஷன் எங்களுக்கு தெரிய வரும். இப்போ ஒரு சூசைட் என்ற விஷயங்களை பார்க்கல 75% சூசைட் பண்ணி இறக்குற ஆக்கள் ஆண்கள். 5 தற்கொலை சம்பந்தமான மரணங்கள்ல 4 தற்கொலை சம்பந்தமான மரணங்கள் ஆண்கள் என்ற மரணம். அதே மாதிரி இப்ப ஆண்களை நாங்கள் என்ன மாதிரி உருவகப்படுத்தி வச்சிருக்கிற விஷயம், அதாவது ஆனண்டா ஸ்ட்ராங்கா இருக்கணும், அழக்கூடாது, இமோஷனா கதைக்கக்கூடாது, எதுக்குன்னு தயங்கக்கூடாது, இல்லது வீக்கா போயிடுவோம்னு நாங்க நினைக்கிறோம். அப்ப இமோஷனலாவோ எங்களோட உணர்ச்சிகளை மெட்டாக்களுக்கு வெளிப்படுத்துற, எங்களோட கஷ்டங்களை வெளிப்படுத்தினால் நாங்கள் வீக்கானவர்கள் மெட்டோன் நெச்சிருவோம் என்று சொல்லி நாங்கள் அதில் வெளிப்படுத்துறேன். எப்படி இருக்கேங்களா ஆண்கள் தங்களுக்கு டிப்ரெஷனோ அல்லது மனநலம் சம்பந்தமான விஷயங்கள் இருக்கிறத வெளிப்படுத்தாம இருக்கிற சந்தர்ப்பத்துல அவைகள் இதை அறியறதுக்குரிய நாட்டமும் அவைக்கு இருக்காது. இப்ப எனக்கு ஒரு வருத்தம் சம்பந்தமான ஒரு ஆரம்ப அறிவோ ஆரம்ப விழிப்புணர்வோ இருந்தா தான் நான் அது சம்பந்தமா மேலதிகமா அறியறதுக்கு நான் வெளிப்படுவேன். அப்படி இல்லாத பட்சத்துல அவைகளுக்கான இந்த அறிவும் குறைவா இருக்கிற பட்சத்துல அவைகளுக்கு இப்படியான மனநலம் சம்பந்தமான பிரச்சனை வரைக்கும் அதை வைத்தியம் செய்யறதுக்கான தன்மைகளும் குறையும். அமெரிக்கால மட்டும் 6 மில்லியன் ஆண்கள், கனடால மட்டும் 1 மில்லியன் ஆண்கள் ஒரு வருஷத்துக்கு டிப்ரெஷனால கஷ்டப்படுகிறார். இப்ப போஸ்ட்மார்ட்டம் டிப்ரெஷன் கதைக்கிறோம், அதாவது பிள்ளை பிறந்ததுக்கு பிறகு பொம்பளைகளுக்கு வர டிப்ரெஷன். அது நாங்கள் போஸ்ட்மார்ட்டம் டிப்ரெஷன் பொம்பளைகளுக்கு மட்டும் தான் யோசிச்சு கொண்டிருக்கிறோம். ஆண்களுக்கு கூட அந்த பிள்ளையின் தகப்பனுக்கோ அந்த பார்ட்னருக்கோ அல்லது அந்த 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 பெண்ணுண்ட கணவனுக்கோ அவைக்கு கூட அந்த பிள்ளை பிறங்குற டைம்ல டிப்ரெஷன் வரதுக்கான சந்தர்ப்பம் இருக்கு. நாங்கள் அதை பற்றி கதைக்கிறேன். எங்களோட கல்ச்சர்ல பெண்களுக்கு தான் அந்த 31 சடங்கு, சாப்பாடு, அது இதெல்லாம் தூக்கி பாக்குறது, தகப்பன்காரன் என்ன நடக்கிறேன்னு நாங்க பெருசா பாக்குறேன். இப்ப இது மட்டுமே எங்களுக்கு ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு உதாரணம். ஆண்கள் என்ற மனநிலை எந்த அளவுக்கு முக்கியம், எந்த அளவுக்கு கவனிக்கப்படணும்ன்றதுக்கு அது ஒரு சரியான உதாரணம். அப்ப கல்ச்சர் சம்பந்தமா, அதாவது ஏற்கனவே நாங்கள் ஒரு மென்டல் ஹெல்த் வரைக்கும் கல்ச்சர் சம்பந்தமா அதை அப்ரோச் பண்ணாத பட்சத்துல சரியான டயக்னோசிஸோ அல்லது சரியான முறையில வைத்தியம் செய்யப்படுறது கஷ்டப்படுறோம். அதே நேரத்துல ஒரு சரியான ஒரு ஜெண்டர் பேஸ்டா நாங்கள் அதை அப்ரோச் பண்ணாட்டி ஆண்கள் பெண்கள் இருக்கிற கிளினிஷியன்ஸ்ட மனம் திறந்து எந்த அளவுக்கு கதைக்கிறன்றது ஒரு பெரிய சிக்கலான ஒரு விஷயம். அது சம்பந்தமா சரியான முறையில நாங்கள் அப்ரோச் பண்ணிக்கலாம், அவைகளுக்கு ஏர்லியா உதவிகள் கிடைக்கக்கூடிய மாதிரி இருக்கு. உதாரணத்துக்கு இந்த டொமஸ்டிக் வயலன்ஸ் கதைக்கிறோம். டொமஸ்டிக் வயலன்ஸ் வந்தா நாங்கள் பெண்களை பற்றித்தான் கதைக்கிறோம். டொமஸ்டிக் வயலன்ஸ் எவ்வளவோ ஆண்கள் பாதிக்கப்படுகிறோம். அவைகளுக்குரிய ஹெல்ப் ட்ரோனோல இல்லை. ட்ரோமாவோ அல்லது இப்போ பிடிஎஸ்டியோ அல்லது ஓரால பாதிக்கப்பட்ட ஆக்களோ அல்லது டொமஸ்டிக் இஷ்யூஸோ அல்லது ஆக்சிடென்ட்ஸோ இந்த ட்ரோமாண்ட வரைக்கும் ட்ரோமா தெரப்பி என்ற விஷயம் பெண்களுக்கு தான் இங்க இருக்குது ட்ரோனோல. அதுக்குரிய சேவைகள் கூட இல்லை. இருந்தால் சரியான அரிதா இருக்கும்னு தான் நான் சொல்லுவேன். இப்ப நான் கிளினிஷியனா வேலை செய்யற எவ்வளவோ ட்ரோமடைஸ் மென்னுக்கு எங்க ரெஃபர் பண்றேன்னு தெரியாம நான் சரியா கஷ்டப்படுறேன். சோ ஆண்களுக்கான சேவைகள் அவையோட மொழியில அவைகள் அந்த பாலினம் சம்பந்தமா சரியான முறையில கொடுக்கப்படுறது, அவைகளுக்கான பாரதூரமான மனநலம் சம்பந்தமான இழப்புகள்ல இருந்தோ தாக்கத்துல இருந்தோ தவிர்க்கக்கூடிய அவசியமா இருக்கு. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Dr. Gurratnam, thank you for that. You know what? I kind of agree. It's time for us to have not only men's directed care, but also cultural care. You know what? There's so many people who, have biases because of their because of their culture. They have different beliefs and different attitudes, especially towards medical care, especially coming from men who don't take that opportunity to be upfront about their care. We're intimidated because we think we have to be men and we have to stand up and deal with our own, and we can get along without, proper medical attention. But I think you're right. It's time for specialized medical care. So thank you for that. Next up, we have, we're going to move on to STACEY. Is it STACEY Nadi? Yes.
Actually,
we're going to move on to something else then?
let's bring Jerome, and then we will move to STACEY.
Very good. So again, we're going to move back to the beginning of our program and welcome Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh. He's a professor at Trinidad University, and he is the founder and creator of International Men's Day and World Day of the Boy Child. Thank you, Jerome, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, Sivam. I want to congratulate and commend the Voice of Men 360 for putting together this historic conference, a week-long conference. It's the first time that International Men's Day anywhere in the world has a conference of this magnitude and depth. I'm seeing speakers from around the world. They will be speaking in different languages. They have different occupations. And I'm very proud to say that I know that the result of this week-long conference will be that men will feel empowered. We will be able to remove stigmas. We'll be able to remove stereotypes. And Voice of Men 360 has been creating a space, not just in the coming week, but in the past few months, Voice of Men has created a positive space. And this is what men around the world need. They want a place to speak, a place to display emotions, a space to freely discuss problems and trials that they may be facing in the family, the community, the neighborhood. So again, I want to congratulate the organizers. I want to congratulate this relatively new group. And Robert, you're doing a very good hosting. I've been a very good host. Sivam, thank you very much for pulling together this team. And I want to tell you all that I'm very proud to be associated with you all. And I want to wish you all a successful conference. Thank you.
Jerome, thank you so much for bringing this to us. I myself only got involved with International Men's Day last year, but as soon as it was brought to me, it seemed like an organization and something that I wanted to support. And I'm glad it's growing worldwide. And the voice is going to continue through Voice of Men 360, I'm sure. So I thank you for all for joining us. And thank you very much for creating this mission for us.
Thank you.
We're going to move on now. Hopefully we got this right and we're back on schedule. So we're going to move on to STACEY Nadi, who is a Indigenous Canadian, and he's a counselor in the Indian community here in Canada. So, and he's going to speak on identifying building as a male throughout the stages of life. STACEY, thank you for joining us today.
I think he has some issues. So let's move to Stephen.
Good. So next we'll move on, and our next discussion is on the social impact that we're having going on in our world right now, and then of course the role that men will play in that social impact. And it's from Stephen Clarke, who's a former hockey player, and he's going to talk about this social world that we're fighting through and how we're going to play a part in it. So Stephen, thank you. Please.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and I won't do my part in the different languages I speak, but I will say hello and bonjour, privyet, hepode, and hola. So those are the languages that I speak. But so I want to talk a little bit today about the social impact that's going on in the world today, and how men are playing a role in that. and the need for men to play a role in that. I think obviously, I've been a proponent over the years of equality. I actually have an organization that's run by my wife, Immigrant Women in Business. That's a nonprofit, and here in Toronto, and now branching out into across Canada and the United States. So we really believe in the one race, the human race, and of course, I'm always quick to remind men that women the men is actually part of the name, and that we need to be part and always go down that route. But social impact is now playing a big role. Some of you may know in 2015, the United Nations got together with their 196 country members, and they created a kind of a white paper, a manifesto of 17 sustainable development goals that they really wanted to eradicate by 2030. So basically, we have this is the decade of social impact, and I think we all need to play a role in that. So what I really want to focus on is the role, obviously, that men can play. I think that we need to step up. We have been for many years I think that men, and I've certainly known a lot of very successful men who have kind of been reluctant to step up. They sometimes, a lot of times, when it's about showing our feelings, we tend to kind of relate that to a weakness. I know that personally, as an ex-professional hockey player, when my career was suddenly ended, I went through a very, very serious depression. And fortunately for me, it didn't last that long. It was a 3-month thing that I was able to get help and deal with it. But it affects, it can affect us all. And so, we need to understand that. And through social impact, I've found, in fact, my company is called Receiving Through Giving. And I found the greatest strength I get is being able to give and give back and help others. And as a result of that, it's been able to help me tremendously. So I encourage people. I know that we've got some, and we've got some people that are out there that are kind of seeking for what's the next big thing, what they want to do with their life, how they want to make more meaning. And I really challenge men to step up and say, listen, we can make a difference. We can lead this whole movement of social impact, certainly making an impact in the world is important for all of us, but we need to come together all across the world. I think this is a fantastic opportunity as International Men's Day to step up, understand the role that we must play in this particular field, and that we can, if we come together, really eradicate all of the challenges that we're facing today. But we need to do this together. We are stronger together, as my wife often says in her meetings, and so this is really, really important that we do that. So I want to again congratulate Siva and the entire organization. Voice of Men 360 is going to go on. I know play a powerful role, having men stand up, be heard with a voice, but reaching out to all others as well, especially women, coming together and making a difference in the world. So thank you for having me. Continued success to you all. And if I can be of any help, certainly don't hesitate to reach out with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, you know what? Please reach out and become a part of Voice of Men 360. I think that's what we're doing right now. This is the social change and the social impact that we're really trying to make. Again, I thank Jerome for creating the International Men's Day, which gave us a mission to follow. And now this Voice of Men 360 is really going to hopefully carry the voice forward globally and take it out there in the places it needs to go. So thank you for that. I really am enjoying the lineup we have today. So who do we have next, just to make sure we're going to the right speaker?
Go with Natalie.
So next we'll move on to next speaker is Natalie Jelena Abarca Benitez, and she's an economist. Really not sure what her topic is she's going to be, but she certainly has been an ambassador for youth and I'm sure men's rights. So please welcome Natalie Benitez. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you to everyone. I really want to thank Ms. Steven and all the international speakers and for everyone who make it possible this event. And thank you for all to be here. Well, I'm Natalia Barca. I'm 23 years old. I'm Ecuadorian, and I have some years working with young leaders, promoting and sharing real changes for our community, with global networking of youth politicians and some other organizations. Um, the celebration of Men's Days is an opportunity to draw attention to gender-specific health issues and reflect on the role that masculinity should play in that society. These stereotypes pressure them and define their current weight within the restrictive framework that defines a man in macho societies, with underdemonized his personal and spiritual fulfillment. People work in paint shoes these days to reflect or new masculinities are neither sexist nor patriarchal and nor violent, and these also affect men. The problem of violence also affects men in the terms of health, since in order to maintain their position, state, and gender their life, they know risk sports, do not go to the doctor, do not go express their emotions, and feel low all the time. Pressure, both emotional and also sexual. And there has no days assigned for men. That some others told him their Father's Days already exist. But what happens with children and adolescents who are not parents? The general objective of this celebration is advocate for more positive images for men in society and improvement in gender relations and public attention to men's health issues. No? I think that we are gathering today to celebrate true equality. True equality, justice, and equality that is not reflected on paper, but is valued and respected for each of one. We are here for true fight that is respected and valued International Men's Day. We had to be treated equality. As great youth and agents of change, we are here to raise our voices. We are the voices of who doesn't have to represent it, and those who are afraid of being heard for fear of their ideas. That is why all of us have to unite as a single fist, like fight for equal treatment. The movement is now, and we have to take action for justice. We must transform the world given the true importance that present and future generations learn the true meaning of equality, not only giving importance to a single group, the meritocracy and equal treatment. We are all valued. We all strive, and this is why the movement of change has arrived. Let's arm ourselves with responsibility and courage to fight of our ideals. And thank you very much to having me. I'm really so proud, and I think that we have to grow out for these big projects and opinions, and for me this is a big way to make understand to the society that it's really important the equality and the justice. Thank you very much.
Natalie, thank you very much. And it was nice to have a woman on here speaking about equality and men's rights as well. She's right. We are a men's and women's world. We can't forget that. But we are also working and specializing and talking about men so that they don't get left out and that voice isn't spoken or left unspoken. So thank you, Natalie, for those wise words. Before we move on to our next couple of speakers, we are moving well through our lineup. I just want to once again mention that Voice of Men 360 is having a art competition, and you can get involved in this art competition. And then we want you to share your thoughts and feelings around International Men's Day through your art, through drawings or paintings, musics, voice, a short film, less than 5 minutes, a poem or article, some animation or photography, comments or comics fashion, or as some performance that you want to put together. The deadline for this event is Sunday, December 20th. And then again, we have to thank our sponsors for this event. Right Choice Professionals, Gold LLP Barristers and Solicitors, Manhamet and Agostina Mortgage, and DF Credit Solutions. Thank you for everybody for making this art competition happen. We do have some rules and terms and conditions for the art competition. They must have English subtitles. So if it's in another language, it must be legible in English. And then again, it can be in music, song, short film, any animation must be, or maximum 5 minutes. There's no age or gender limits. This is really open for everybody. You must send your name, phone number, email address, and your picture along with your submission. And then by entering into the competition, you agree that the picture and your creation will be shared on social media by Voice of Men's 360. Once again, please connect with us. voiceofmen360.org, info@voiceofmen360.org, or please visit us, facebook.com/voiceofmen360. Next, I think to move into STACEY.
Maybe we can try STACEY, but also I'm hearing that there's no audio, RJ. I'm just wondering what happened.
My audio coming through okay? You can hear me?
I can hear you, but they cannot hear you speaking, you know.
I'm not sure why that is, because I mean, if I'm coming through to you, I should be coming through to everybody.
Exactly. I don't see any problem.
Andrew says he can hear both of us, so maybe it's whoever it is, their personal audio for whatever reason.
All right, let's try with STACEY if we can.
If STACEY is here and ready to join us, we'll move into that conversation on throughout the stages of life, identifying as being a male from STACEY Nadi, who is a First Nations counselor. So please, thank you for joining us today, STACEY.
STACEY, can you hear?
We have no video, but do we have audio?
STACEY? Okay, let's move with the...
Yeah, we'll move on to the last.
Hold on.
Some people will move on to our final speaker this evening. And we have a TEDx speaker, and he really is. We have somebody here. Who are you?
Okay.
And so our speaker present masculinity, past, present, and future. Thank you for joining us, Andrew Smiler. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Stephen, and to all the folks at Voice of Men 360 for organizing this amazing event and inviting me. I'm really honored to be part of what is truly an international event. My name is Andrew Smiler, as y'all can see there on screen. I'm a developmental psychologist and a practicing therapist in the American state of North Carolina. I'm also the author of several books about the lives of boys and men and a co-founder of the Healthy Masculinity Initiative.com. And I want to talk to you today about American masculinity because it's changing. Now, don't worry, it's changed before and it'll change again. Masculinity, after all, reflects our culture's standards and expectations for men. During these last few decades, here in the US, our attitudes about smoking, about drinking and driving, about recycling, and even who might own and use a computer, they're not just for nerds anymore. Those have all changed. The basis of our economy has shifted too. When we think about masculinity, I'm going to start us in the 1980s because our current definition of masculinity in America really crystallized at that point. Starting in the 1980s, America's definition of masculinity really became centered on a man's achievements. We wanted our boys and men to become, quote unquote, real men who demonstrated a certain amount of toughness and didn't do wimpy things like, for example, eating quiche. Guys who met our standards were given status in masculinity's hierarchy and were called the man. Having high status itself was often taken as evidence of being highly masculine, making status a worthwhile goal for boys and men in and of itself. Now, this is all occurring barely a decade after Vietnam, the My Lai massacre, and peace protests. We came to accept and even glorify violence as a part of masculinity, seeing it as a legitimate way for a guy to achieve his goals. On the big screen, Hollywood made millions, giving us a whole new level of violence. Now, adventure films had always included some amount of fighting and even some death, but movies with stars like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Van Damme started to have body counts that were contributed to equally by heroes and villains alike. On screen, these guys largely operated on their own, outside the law or any meaningful chain of command. Now, violence wasn't the only new addition to masculinity in this period. Male promiscuity became part of masculinity's canon in the US in the 1970s, around the same time that women were fighting for equal rights again. Fonzie from Happy Days and Hawkeye Pierce from MASH were something new on television, male leading characters who were so-called good guys and also engaged in casual sex. In large numbers, we tuned in every week to see their exploits. We did this before DVRs and VCRs, so we actually had to be home to see what was going on. Those characters would give way to a series of prominent promiscuous male comedic characters and actors, including Sam from Cheers, Joey from Friends, and more recently, Charlie from 2.5 Men. And on all these shows, the more partners a guy had, regardless of the quality of that sex or how much sex he might be able to have with a committed partner, the number became more important than fidelity for proving his masculinity. And we liked these characters. These are all perennial top 20 shows. The shows were all nominated for and won Emmys as Best Actor. In the US, the economy and the world of business also changed. As Gordon Gekko taught us in the movie Wall Street, greed is good. And although he'd eventually go to jail, as would The Wolf of Wall Street, both films glorified their wealth and their lifestyles. On television, Robert Leach showed us the lifestyles of the rich and famous. It became all about wealth, all about status for masculinity in men. During this time, again in the business world, hostile takeovers also became a thing, merging the new acceptance of violence with this desire for wealth. And this is still our dominant definition of masculinity in the US. Taken to the extreme, current day America seems to be all about the extremes, this version of masculinity is toxic. It promotes violence, it promotes promiscuity without any concerns about protection, and it promotes a win-at-all-costs mentality, all of this with no regard for the people who get in a guy's way. Characters such as Iron Man and Dominic Toretto from the Fast and Furious films embody this version of masculinity. But this wasn't always how we defined masculinity here in the US. From the late 1800s through the early 1960s, masculinity was centered on men's character and their morality. We expected him to be humble, to pull his weight, be part of the team, and part of his community. Men of this era, the first half of the 1900s, didn't tolerate violence in their communities. In the Old West, both as it really existed and as we saw it on screen in Westerns, gunslingers weren't welcome, but they were occasionally tolerated. Just ask Shane. Millions of men fought in the world wars, and nearly everyone knew someone who'd been killed or maimed. But in the 1950s, when the teenage sons of the men who'd fought the Nazis started fighting in their own communities, these men got busy trying to understand and help those so-called juvenile delinquents, a term that was coined in that era and continues on today. In movies, books, and TV shows such as The Outsiders and West Side Story, the violent boys were outcasts. They weren't the heroes. Now, they'd be redeemed a few decades later through movies like Grease and Saturday Night Fever. But at the time, through the early half of the 20th century in the US, they were outcasts. In this period, teamwork was also a priority. Through the first half of the 20th century, men came together to build cities in the US, to create an educational system, fight 2 world wars, and form large corporations, which they saw as good. After the wars, men continued to work together in peace in America. In their communities, they were expected to help everyone's kids while coaching Little League, to be active in their house of worship, and to spend time in fraternal organizations that contributed to the common good. Nationally and internationally, men came together to rebuild Europe, to make America, quote unquote, the breadbasket of the world, and to put 12 men on the moon within a decade of John F. Kennedy's challenge to do so. Yet by 2000, less than 50 years later, we were bowling alone, as Robert Putnam called it. Men of this era, and all eras really, have worked hard to earn enough to support their families. When large corporations became common in the 1950s, men were encouraged to work hard to earn a promotion, which also brought opportunities to move up the social ladder. Loyalty to the company was important, and a guy might strive to be a 30, 40, or even a 50-year man. But you know who didn't get promoted back in that era back in the 50s and early 60s? Braggarts. Being loud and conspicuous about your work accomplishments was seen as crass. Bosses and companies preferred humility. And those were our expectation of American men, boys and men through the first half of the 20th century. That was our definition of masculinity. In theory, any guy could meet these expectations. If he did, in the language of the 1950s, we'd call him a good guy and might describe him as upstanding. Characters such as Captain America, Superman, and all those fathers who knew best embodied this version of masculinity. Now, there's no doubt that white heterosexual men of that era owed some of their success to the biases of the day. After all, his chances of getting a good job were improved by keeping women and quote-unquote coloreds out of the workplace. It's a lot easier to get a good job when 60% of the populace can't get it because they're not allowed. Today, we call that era patriarchal and racist, but that era's definition of masculinity, all that stuff about being a good guy, didn't actually require him to be sexist or racist. And as a result, many of those good men recognized the morality of the equality movements of the day, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, as well as the gay rights movement a generation later. And many of those good men supported equality by joining protests, giving money, and providing access to power where they could. So here in the US, we've gone from a definition of masculinity that was focused on character in the late 1800s and the first half of the 1900s, to one that's been focused on achievement during the second half of the 1900s and here into the beginning of the 2000s. As I mentioned earlier, our culture has changed. So we might also ask, what's next for masculinity? Me and along with my colleagues at the Healthy Masculinity Initiative, propose a masculinity that, again, any man can achieve, but now based on perhaps wholeness, a masculinity that encourages men to set both individual and community-oriented goals, a masculinity that encourages men to care for their body and their mind, and a masculinity that encourages men to find meaning in work and leisure activities. In short, a masculinity that encourages men to have multiple areas in which he can feel accomplished, instead of requiring a guy to find one thing at which he can excel and be the best. This type of masculinity allows and encourages flexibility, allowing a man to change the focus of his masculine self-worth as he ages out, gets injured, or otherwise discovers that he's reached his peak. Basing masculinity on wholeness while including flexibility provides a healthier version of masculinity because it gives guys a broader basis for their masculine sense of self, and thus it builds in some resilience. A broad base allows a man to be less defensive when he's challenged, or when he discovers that he's no longer the best. And in our interconnected social media world, there's always someone else who seems better. This focus on wholeness doesn't require a man to be superlative, to be the best. Instead, it encourages a man to be self-aware, set realistic goals, and to adapt. These goals can be achieved by any man, not just the fastest, smartest, most ambitious, or most connected. And when any man can be seen as masculine, masculinity will be less toxic. Thank you for your time.
Andrew, thank you for that talk. Yeah, you know what? There was a time when we were built on character. That was what manhood meant. And, you know, I don't know how many people know it, but I watched Little House on the Prairie. It's one of my favorite. And the man I want to emulate is Charles Ingalls. He is the man who does what he has to do for his family. He's just trying to get by, and he's trying to, be the best man he can, do what has to be done, and
absolutely
don't mess with his family, right? And I think that's what we're all trying to do as men, and I'm glad we're bringing this mission forward. Also, in the interest of creating the community, creating the conversations, I think, and I invite everybody to be more interactive in Voice of Men and let it become that forum for the voice, and let us do great things from here moving forward. So we're close to done here. I think hopefully we can get to STACEY's talk, who will be the last speaker today. And again, that was on stages of life and identifying building as a male. STACEY, are you able to join us at this time?
STACEY?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, please.
STACEY. We don't have video of him, but please continue your talk with us today, STACEY.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm very glad to have been asked to be a part of 360 Men's International Day. And my conversations is about identity building as a male throughout all stages of life. You know, identity is an amazing energy that is created from a variety of life moments and experience that can be either pleasant or unpleasant in our lives. Pleasant moments are easily remembered, yet when they become clouded from a fragmented history of hurt, pain, shame, fear, loss, guilt, then those memories become a lot more difficult to recall. Then we end up with a fragmented history of adverse childhood experience with family, friends, social interactions, and unexpected losses and changes in life that might also be perceived as traumatic or toxic to a person's identity and creating an untrue picture of themselves and also the self-talk that goes along with that. So there's likely adverse, unhealthy behaviors, attitudes, expectations, and beliefs in life that develop from childhood early on and carry into our adulthood. There's even pleasant experiences in life that will leave us questioning, you know, who am I? Why am I? Where am I going? Pleasant life moments could be they could be affirming for us. They could have lots of caring and kindness and empathy and love and laughter and curiosity and joy. And there isn't been a continual need to address concerns of your finances, threatening environments, or a need for supportive resources or networks to help make critical life decisions on a daily basis. So this perception might be that someone's having a smooth life. However, we all know that a smooth life does not really exist. One thing that we are guaranteed in life, though, is that we will get ill from time to time and that we will die. So other things that will occur throughout a person's life, though, is changes to the body, the perception, their values, their family, their friends, life roles, living or working environments, and socioeconomic status, abilities, and gifts. So everyday experiences that we live in every day are interconnected between the past, the present, and the future. So identity is always in the forefront of our communication in the times of our reflection, throughout our work days, when we're playing with kids, when we're making decisions. Identity is an intangible construct while happening because you always don't always know when you're questioning it, affirming it, or reaffirming it. It pops up in everyday roles from childhood throughout our adolescence and teenage years and as young adults and as the changes we make, becoming a partner, becoming a father, becoming an uncle. We are always going to be brother or a friend or a son or a teammate or a boss or a coworker or a helper or a leader or a hero in our lives. So it's always continually happening. So identity has been with us throughout all of our stages of life, and the best way to understand it is one, we have to be able to make peace with our earliest unpleasant childhood memories. Those memories have set up our initial belief systems in our life, and they have created our self-worth. You know, maybe we were raised by a caregiver that was not sympathetic or empathetic to our needs at the time, and maybe they didn't know um, how to raise children. Maybe we were brought up as an only child and received lots of attention or not enough. Maybe we were raised with siblings under the same roof in an unhealthy environment, yet really didn't get to know one another genuinely. Maybe we were taken away or placed in a foster home or and had a decent upbringing, yet you always knew you wanted answers and questions to who you are. Maybe you were taken away in a foster home and had many unpleasant experiences with a lot of collateral damage around you throughout your life. Maybe you didn't get to know both of your birth parents. Maybe they were not there due to substance use. Maybe one of them died. Maybe one of them went missing. Maybe there was mental health issues or other concerns. So making peace with unpleasant early childhood memories is really the only way forward, because it allows you to focus on everyday situations that might be unpleasant, not similar or familiar, yet are interconnected to all of these early adverse childhood experiences. So how do you make peace with the past and the present so the past doesn't affect your present? Well, there's lots of approaches that can be pursued, and whichever one you choose, they require a deep, honest, truthful component that clearly acknowledges that the event took place, recognizes the amount of turmoil that it had upon your life, and it should help you understand what you are letting go of, along with emotional statements that allow you to say everything that was not said that made that particular experience incomplete. The peacemaking process, when done truthfully, honestly, and genuinely, will empower you to take ownership and responsibility for choosing to move ahead. Somewhere in revisiting that memory, you will experience pain, sadness, sorrow, anger, anxiety, maybe some dissociation. Maybe the tears will flow that have always been in there. So initially, once that energy is free, maybe you will be able to breathe life into that area of your body and feel a sense of peace. Peace is about letting go and releasing. It's often aligned with the process of forgiveness to self, others, and even the unforgivable, that one secret that we tell ourselves. I'm taking that one to the grave due to the fear, the guilt, or shame that's associated to that event in life. As human beings, our nature is to fear being neglected, not cared for, not loved, not accepted, not wanted. And we do all kinds of things to counteract that by being people pleasers and show others why we should be in their lives or in our life, even when the interaction or relationship becomes unhealthy or toxic. So, making peace with early childhood adverse experiences are essential to having a healthy male identity about the past, the present, and for the future. Other things that we should be able to work on is processing experiences where we've experienced fight, flight, or freeze. These experiences were definitely triggering when they happen, and they can be same when they occur in our present moments, because there's lots of triggers that can happen and that we can see daily. Processing these experiences are quite unique because it requires you to always constantly be aware and to ground yourself to where you're at in the present. There's lots of different ways that you can ground yourself. One way that I've learned was to practice deep breathing, paying attention to your immediate surroundings. Look at something that you can see, um, identify something that you can touch. What is it that you're hearing in your environment? Is there any smells that are in your environment? And also, what are you feeling? So that's one way of grounding yourself in the moment while you're experiencing maybe a triggering event from your past in your life. So, um, allowing yourself to be present and not overwhelmed with these fight, flight, or freeze experiences will definitely help you move through the process, because um, when those things happened in our lives, we go right into survival mode. And, those survival coping mechanisms will, help us through what it is that we're experiencing right here, right now. And we don't want to be living with any kind of fragmented identity that we don't have a real true self-image or of who we really are in our lives as men. So we need to be able to deal with some of those things. The other thing that I'll close with is that you have to be able to make your beliefs your passion in life. when we practice unhealthy beliefs in our lives, we practice them with passion, where no one was going to get in our way or persuade us that something is not right. We were so passionate that we set time, energy, finances aside from those that we love, or to things that were once purposeful to us. We would defend unhealthy belief systems that we were having in our lives, detrimental to burning bridges with family, friends, work, community, and our own character. And one time we woke up suffering psychologically, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And at those points, we're filled with lots of stress, anxiety, tension, chaos, trauma, loss, exasperated to the point of feeling alone, lost, confused, depressed, sometimes physically sick, or having suicidal thoughts. So when we get to those points, they're sometimes described as bottoming out or at the end of our ropes. At that point, maybe we're able to cede to the idea of making change and going forward, or we've become further consumed in our unhealthy behaviors or experiences, or we experience a mental breakdown. So recovering from unhealthy beliefs and putting healthy beliefs back into our lives requires being very honest and truthful about how these unhealthy beliefs consumed our entire being, how they distorted our thought patterns, our expectations in life, our judgments of others. It has to be so truthful that we be able to have to say how selfish and dishonest, or how we lied or stole or cheated or sacrificed our own selves, and how that left us with so much shame, pain, anger, or guilt, in our process of uncovering who we were during those times. So just deciding to say things to yourself is not the only approach. We need to be able to share these things with one other person, at least in life, maybe a clergy, a counselor, a therapist, a close friend, or a support group program. Creating healthy belief systems take time. You gotta have lots of patience, honesty, humility, and bravery to set the stage for new experiential learning, growth, problem solving, and effective communication. We learn to observe and listen before we act. We learn to listen to understand and reflect, while shutting off these internal messages that occur in our mind. Even while people are talking, we're having these conversations with ourselves. So effective communication is about owning our part in the conversation, personalizing it, using I statements, I feel, I think, I am, stuff like that. Because somewhere in the process of change, we begin to understand what trust, confidentiality, and faith means to us. We learn about healthy boundaries. We learn about letting go. We learn to allow everyone and everything to work independent for, a desired healthy outcome. We learn about commitment and perseverance by following through and doing everything in our power that provides us with as many options as possible to succeed. So those are at least three things that I can say help to create a very healthy identity for us as men throughout all of the stages of life that we've experienced in our past and right in the present as we're creating them now, and help us to be the person that we want to be in the future. So I'm very thankful for having had this opportunity to share with you on the International Men's Day 360 and the Voice of Men. So thank you very much, and look forward to watching more of this day with everyone else. Thank you.
STACEY, thank you for joining us. I'm glad we were able to get through the technical difficulties we were having and get to your talk, because, and not to make light of your conversation or shorten or abbreviate it too much, because you offered us a lot of value there. But I think as men, we kind of need to consistently re-identify with ourselves as we grow through those stages of life. And again, being macho, being men, we have a certain standard to uphold. We refuse to allow ourselves to step into that position, to do that growth that we need. But thank you for your conversation. I think it was very valuable. That's our speakers for today. I think we put on a great show for you today. And don't forget, we've got another 5 days of these presentations for you. So again, please join us for the next 5 days for our different presentations from different speakers, all on men's issues. We have, again, our art competition. Please don't forget, you can join, and that's until Sunday, December 20th is our deadline. You can enter that art competition, where we want you to share your thoughts, emotions, or feelings around Men and International Men's Day through your art, whether that be whether you're a writer and you want to do a poem, an article, a short story, you're visual and you want to do a drawing or a video or some kind of music or presentation like that, or animation or comics. Videos, we want to keep them under 5 minutes. Again, short stories and things, we want to keep them under 5,000 words as well. We don't want long detailed performances or products. And then we have to thank our sponsors, RCP, Right Choice Professionals, Wood Gold LLP Barristers and Solicitors, Matt Comet and Agostino Mortgage, and then DF Credit Solutions, who have been able to make this event possible. Of course, again, we have rules and regulations regarding our art contest. Please visit us for more at voiceofmen360.org. Again, we are an ongoing talk show, and we do interviews in both English and Tamil right now. So please, again, connect with us. And if you have, a really passionate story or message to share, please reach out to us so we can get that message shared on Voice of Men. Connect with us through our website, and voiceofmen360.org. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Our Facebook group, of course, facebook.com/voiceofmen360. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel where we'd like you to find these videos, of course, throughout the week and ongoing from there. You'll find them on our YouTube video channel. Please like and subscribe our videos there. So thank you for joining us today. Voice of Men 360 is thrilled to bring you this opportunity to present men's issues and discuss how we can make a better future for our boys by promoting and creating better and stronger role models in our men. So that's our show today. Sivam, do you have anything else to add before we sign off today?
No, that's all. Thank you, all of you guys, especially, the speakers, whoever are listening. And then also we had a lot of comments, positive, very impressive comments too. So thank you all. It's just really a great honor to have all of you guys. It's not like a one time, but yeah, we will continue with that, Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And thank you all of our speakers for joining us today. And we have some exciting speakers. We have 5 more days of these presentations, so please continue to join us. 10 a.m. every morning here in Voice of Men 360.
Thanks a lot. Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye.